I have been very passionate about teaching people to invest in hard assets, predominantly real estate. And in this video, I will explain exactly why I am such a proponent of getting into real estate. And then I will explain to you as well how to best get into real estate to improve your wealth quickly. I am going to utilize a method that I have learned from my mentor, Joel Bauer. I came up with this particular magic trick to hopefully help you understand what inflation is, how it works, and how trading our paper assets, our money, for hard assets that are poised to grow during inflation, and explain how the whole process works. Because oftentimes we need to see and experience things for ourselves in order to be understanding and to take action. Now, here is what I have here in front of me. Now, you can't see, but you can hear that is my desk. It's basically my antique desk that I used to work on, but right now it's holding my props. What props do I have? First thing that I have is a glass of water. Now, this is just water. It's just a glass. It's just water. I will drink it. So, in case you are wondering, it is just water, and I wouldn't put any sort of chemical or anything weird in it to, just for the magic trick. So I respect my body and health way more than I respect wealth, although I respect both of them. So, and if you doubt it, because you might not know me, feel free to check out my social. Feel free to connect with all of my friends and my entire network of everybody who knows me so that they can assure you that I truly would not put any chemicals or anything weird in this glass of water. It's just glass of water. The second thing that I have is a chopstick. It's a chopstick that I use to eat my food with. It's a sort of a sustainable way so that I don't have to get new chopstick every time I want to eat Asian food. So I have bought a pair of chopsticks that I use in my kitchen all the time. But in this case scenario, I'm going to use a chopstick to represent time, and I'm going to use time, aka the chopstick, with my water, which represents inflation, to stir things up to make it go a bit faster. Because when things kind of sit at the slow pace, at the place of current inflation, we can't see what time does to our assets and our holdings. Now, those are the two things that I have. I'm going to put them down. What I also have here is a $100 bill. I'm going to put it over here so you can see it. Feel free to inspect it. Right? It is just a $100 bill. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. What most people don't know is that a $100 bill is a note. It's called a Federal Reserve note. And right here, you can see Federal Reserve notes. Okay? So this is an actual real $100 bill. And this notes, in banking, in the world of banking, finance, economics, note is a synonym for debt. So what that means is that this $100 note, what we call money, is also debt. That is very important to remember in this particular case scenario. So I have a $100 bill, aka debt. I have a glass of water that represents inflation, and I have a chopstick that represents time. Now, what happens when we earn that $100 bill? Most of us earn money by trading our time. We go to work, and then an employer basically gives us money to pay us for our hard work. Some of us may have a business, and that's how we earn money. Some of us sell things. Some of us invest, and that's how we make this money. Regardless of how you make this $100 bill, it is the same $100 bill. Your 100 and my 100 are exactly the same. When I take this money and I deposit it to the bank, and the table, aside from holding my props, is also going to be a bank. When I take this $100 bill and I deposit it to the bank will do something very interesting. They will give me a piece of paper that says I have $100 notes in there, right? You can see it. It's just a piece of paper. So this and this are exact same thing. Typically, we don't get paid by cash. Most of us at least don't. So the employer will direct deposit things into my bank account, and typically nowadays we actually get our statements in an email form, right, in electronic form, but you can print it out and get a piece of paper that lets you know that, hey, you have $100 in your bank account that you can now use to buy things, right? So this represents the money that I have in bank, $100 bill. So now I have a glass of water, inflation, $100 bill, basically note proving that I have money. I have a chopstick that represents time, and I have a $100 bill that is in the bank. Cool? All right. Now, that $100 bill can do a lot of things, right? I could spend this $100 and get an Uber ride somewhere, right? And maybe get a dinner. I can go and buy a ticket to an event. I can use this money to buy an education, buy books, buy food, pay for my housing, although probably won't be able to find a whole lot of housing for just $100. But if I have multiple of these, I could do that. So this allows us to do many different things. And one of the things that allows us to do is to trade this for assets. This little guy that you see, it's sort of like my version of a house. There's not much happening with it, right? It's just a plain old boring house. But what it does in this particular case scenario is going to represent assets. Assets that are well poised to perform really well in inflation periods, and assets that allow us to preserve and grow our wealth. Of course, it's a house because I love investing in real estate, and I believe that real estate is the best asset that is going to help you preserve and grow your wealth, especially in inflation, which is what we are experiencing. It's just not happening fast enough to understand it. Now, before I do the magic trick, I want to give you a bit of a history of who I am, kind of where I come from. I grew up in Serbia in the 80s and the 90s, and at that time we were switching from socialism/communism into capitalism. During that time, there were also a lot of sort of riots and rises that eventually imploded into a civil war. So yes, I grew up during the Civil War, and part of what happened also is that our money that we had, which wasn't US dollar, we had a dinar, which we still do, it's just different kind of dinar now. It was losing value fast. We were experiencing one of the highest hyperinflations in recorded history. Oftentimes people will talk about Weimar Republic, but we actually beat them as well. Our money quickly was becoming very useless, and in all honesty, this piece of paper would have been way more worth than this bill. Okay, so we ended up spending, $100 bill could buy you, like, say, a case of Coke. To $100 bill could buy you a Coke. To $100 bill could buy you, like, maybe, the little flip thing on top of the Coke, the little aluminum thing, to basically being useless. You could just light it on fire, and that's that. Now, I'm not going to light money on fire here because A, destroying money is a federal offense, and B, I do respect my wealth, and this $100 bill, even though it doesn't buy as much now in 2020 that it did, say, 10 years ago, it still does buy things, and by intellectually and intelligently holding on to this money and investing it correctly, I can quickly scale and grow this $100 bill to $100,000. And I will explain exactly how that works in this video. All right, so we have the whole setup. We have our inflation, we have time, we have our note of money that is in the bank, and we have an asset. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop, hold on, let me put this down so you can actually see what I'm doing, so that you don't think I am fooling you completely. I'm going to drop this out into the world of inflation. And I'm also going to drop this $100 notes that you see. Can you read that? Is it upside down? It's upside down. All right, $100 note into the inflation environment. All right, now I'm going to use time to stir things up. Now, I could let it sit if I wanted to be able to sort of let you see what happens, because that's what happens in today's economy. Inflation is, they say, about 2% if you follow the official inflation component. And if you follow shadowstats.com, you will quickly see that he argues that inflation is close to 6 to 8%. And that is all through perception management, because they're changing how inflation is calculated. Now, the best way that I recommend folks learn what the inflation is take a look at your expenses that you have had over the last year to what your expenses are this year, right? That like loaf of bread that you bought a year ago or 2 years ago, what is the cost of it today? And likely you will discover that you're paying way more today than you did before. I remember about 5, 10 years ago, I could go to a grocery store and my $100 bill would buy me a whole lot of groceries. I mean, I could eat for like weeks. Today, $100 bill perhaps can buy me a 1 week worth of food that I can carry in one little grocery bag. Now, I've used a little bit of time to kind of explain what things are happening. And now let's take a look at what's happening in our world of economy, in our inflation environment that I have sped up and almost created a hyperinflation. Okay, I'm going to stop stirring. I'm going to take time, put it down. And now let's take a look at what's happening in this glass of water. So you will see that the paper has completely disappeared, but there's something interesting that has happened with my house. So you will see I can't find a paper anymore. Like it's completely dissolved. There's really nothing in it. It's just, right? It's just water now. And here's something quite amazing that has transpired. I'm going to squeeze it. Okay. All right, I'm gonna put my inflation down. I'm holding on to the stuff right here. I'm just gonna take a rag because I don't want water everywhere. All right, this is just a rag, y'all. Not much happening there, okay? There's something quite interesting and unique that has happened with my house. It's the same house, but look how much bigger it is now. Can you see it? Now, of course, it's not perfect. It's a little bit crooked, but the house has grown. I'm going to put the house back in the water and see if maybe a bit more of time can help it expand a bit more. Now, how is this possible and how does this work? Typically, we will use our money, which is debt. And what inflation does, it eats our money. It eats debts. Money is debt. And so that's why over time, your $100 bill is worth less and less. It buys less and less stuff. When we buy real estate, oftentimes we will use debts to acquire it. Whether we buy it by cash or we finance it, right? You take average price of home today in 2020 in the United States is $250,000. And oftentimes we won't put the whole $250,000 to acquire that asset. We will actually take 20% typically, so $50,000, and then finance the $200,000 to be able to acquire our asset. What ends up happening is that that loan that we have taken is going to start being worth less and less, meaning because of inflation, what we have to pay is less and less. Folks that have invested in real estate back in like 50s and 60s were able to buy homes for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and those homes are now worth $500,000, $600,000, sometimes even millions of dollars. And that is all thanks to inflation. I don't think I'm going to be able to perform this trick as well. So I'm going to put this down because I'm kind of tired of holding it up. But this is my house. I'm just going to wipe down some water. And you will see that it actually has expanded in a very short period of time. This is what happens with real estate in inflation scenario, and this is why I'm so passionate about people getting into real estate now and then waiting. Most people wait to get into real estate, and I say get into real estate and then wait, because this is what ends up happening. My little $100 bill that I have put into the same case scenario has completely disappeared. It can't buy anything anymore, but my little house that I have traded in this case scenario years ago, because I have started up, right, to speed things up, is now worth many multiples of what my money ever would have been. And that is why I talk about so passionately about real estate being able to not just grow, but also preserve your wealth. That is why I'm so passionate about people learning about the financial forces that we're all experiencing, and why I'm so passionate about teaching people how to get into real estate. Now, you might be thinking right now of like, this is great, Nev. I'm understanding this. I'm laughing at your attempt to do magic because it sucks, man. And that's okay. I understand. Like I said, I'm not a magician. I was just trying to borrow a technique to help you understand. And if you understood exactly what inflation now can do, and you're wondering, how do I get into real estate? Because maybe you've been wanting to, or maybe you never thought about doing it, but now you're really inspired to do it. And you're going to go out there and try a very traditional way to get into real estate by finding a realtor who's going to show you some houses, and you're going to pay a top dollar. If you don't want to pay a top dollar, because while inflation will work on every or nearly every real estate asset, not all of them are poised the best. So in my Real Estate on the Cheap challenge, I have created a 21-day course, so to speak, that you can participate in from the comfort of your home, where I will teach you not just kind of how these concepts works and who you need to be as an investor and where the money comes from in case you don't have money to put in it, but I'm also going to show you and teach you how to buy highly valuable properties for dirt cheap. Houses and properties that are valued anywhere between 200,000 all the way to like 1.6 million dollars that you can buy for a few $1,000s. And those are the houses and properties that exist out there that most people don't even know they exist. Nonetheless, do they know how to properly get into them? That is exactly what I teach in my Real Estate on the Cheap challenge. And one of the cool things that you might know is that the cost to get in it is actually not even $100. It's only $50. It's like $2 a day, a little bit over $2 a day for 21 days to learn how to trade one of these into one of these in a few short, simple moves by utilizing inflation, appreciation, and time. And if you're wondering whether time is going to take a lot, like in this case scenario where I was trying to make years out of minutes, it's not. When we buy real estate that is deeply discounted, so say for example, if I am able to buy a house that is currently selling on a market for $200,000, but I only pay $10,000, not the down payment, but just $10,000 to own the whole thing, I am up $190,000 immediately. That is what is called instant equity, not sweat equity. I don't have to sweat about it at all. Sweat equity is when you have to go in and fix it up to bring that value up, but that is not what I'm teaching, although it is something that you can do, absolutely. But what I'm teaching is how to even just buy that asset for a deep discount so that the moment you buy, you are actually up. People are very worried these days about market going down, real estate prices going down, losing money. And what I love about my challenge, what I love about the process that I have personally used for years to go from completely broke to financially independent in a few short years, is this process of buying assets at a deep discount. When I buy that $200,000 home for $10,000, I can hold on to it, I can refinance, I can flip it, I can do all kinds of different things that are going to allow me to start making even more money. And the cool part about joining Real Estate on the Cheap challenge is that it will teach you how to do this, and you can not do this once or twice. It's a tool and a technique that works in any market, in any economic standing, and allows you to not just benefit from inflation but from instant equity. And it's something that you can repeat over and over and over and over again. So whether you want to buy one house that you want to live in, or you want to hold an entire empire of real estate properties, some that you flip, some that you live in, some that you gift, some that you rent, and some that you flip, it doesn't really matter. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. The key component is trading. Lost my money. That's what ends up happening, y'all. The piece is that you can end up trading half of this, right? So for one of these, I can actually get 2 accesses into Real Estate on the Cheap challenge. This, that is not going to be worth much of anything. This, that basically I can spend in one grocery trip for maybe a week of food. This, they will buy me maybe a fancy dinner. This that disappears on daily basis in our lives because we trade money without even realizing that it's gone. Think about it. How many times have you gone out and you look in your wallet and it's poof, money's gone? You got paid on a Friday, by Monday, money is gone. You need to go back to work and make it. What I want to do is I want to teach you how to multiply this, not just spend it and poof, it's gone, right? And that was my attempt at a magic trick again. I don't do magic, y'all. I suck at it, okay? I've proven this to you. Where my magic holds is teaching people how to trade this for these and allow for equity, time, and inflation to take you from wherever you are right now to wherever you want to be financially. And many people may not want to go into financially because of the money, but maybe you need money to take care of your elderly parents. Maybe you need money to take care of your kids. Maybe you want to retire. Maybe you want to quit your job because you're no longer passionate about it, or you were never passionate about it and you don't love it. Maybe you want to start your own business, something that you really love to do so that you can impact more people. Maybe you want to go work a nonprofit, but you can't afford it right now. Maybe, I don't know what you want. What I do know is one thing is for sure. For 50% of this, for half of this, I can get you there.